also sending out fire and ambulance to take someone off to a hospital or to jail when actually they could be treated on the spot and taken care of in that way. So I just wanted to emphasize it's actually a cost-saving perspective. It's based on actually Eugene Cahoots. Cahoots actually saves Eugene millions of dollars. So just to kind of put that, like, if we think a little differently, like Commissioner Hardesty said, gosh, we haven't changed our first responder system since the 1800s. You know, we didn't have the right first responders for a lot of our contemporary situations. So first we just needed to fix that, and it's going to be a lot more cost effective to do so.
And I am remiss in not introducing Bob Cossey, who is the 911 director. He's the director of the Bureau of Emergency Communication. And so I've been talking about him as if he wasn't here, and I feel bad about that. What I want to say also is today, if you call 911, if the operator doesn't know who to send, they will send police, fire, and AMR. Now, only one of those three have a financial incentive to show up. And the only question they ask is if you want to be transported, and that's AMR. And if you say no, they're off. Now you have fire and you have police. But if it's people who are just in distress with no insurance and really nowhere to go, is that really a good use of our first responders? We have a lot, the call volume continues to rise, and we have to be smarter about how we deploy those resources. I think we've done the public a disservice by believing that police will solve all our social ills in our community, and that simply is not so. They are not equipped, they are not social workers, they are not mental health professionals, even though they've had some training, right? The reality is that if we send the right first responder to the right situation at the right time, the investment will be appropriate, and it won't be sending three folks who really aren't the right entities to show up.
So would you be, like, in a year publishing something that shows that financially this has been success? So how are you going to show that it's successful?
Well, yes, we will be evaluating, as I said, every step of the way. Portland State University's Houseless Collaborative has been partners with us from the beginning, so they will be monitoring our activity, and we will be changing our activity based on the information that we gather along the way. The reality is that this is an investment. I got the city council to put $500,000 aside to do this, right? But quite frankly, I think it's the right investment, and I'm going to make sure, as long as I'm in charge, I'm going to make sure that we are using these dollars wisely and that we're having an impact. I mean, today, if you think about how much money we waste by arresting people who, but for being houseless, would have never been arrested, then we send them through the court system, then they go to the jail, then they go back on the street, then they miss their court date, then they have a warrant for their arrest, and then we start the cycle all over again. But if we go back to the cause was poverty. The cause was not having access to resources, and we must do better because we're not going to have an unlimited pool of resources.
I see it like a mini part starting to have a mini. So, hi. My question, I have a few questions, but one of my questions is how exactly will this team be deployed? Like, how will it be connected to the current 911 system? That's one question.
Okay, to start, that was one that, well, to kind of back up, when I started the CHAT program, which is the Community Healthcare Assessment Team, it was looking at those high utilizers of 911 and how do we connect them to services, again, with the response model, trying to create response reliability. When we're recognizing that we're going to the same address sometimes 4 to 6 times a day, and the cycle is just they get sent home because there's nothing wrong with them, they call 911 and we do that. Our job was really to engage with that person, figure out what the underlying cause was, and figure out what specialty person they needed to see and connect them to those services. Oftentimes it was just their primary care provider. Then the commissioner started running for office, and I remember waking up one morning and hearing her talk, and I thought, that sounds like my job. And it was very exciting. And now here we are. Wow. The story was put out by Street Roots, and now the question is, why aren't we doing this all over the city? We are already in the position, because we're already connected through dispatch, we're already going on these calls. The apparatus we're sending, 4 firefighters and a fire suppression vehicle, it's not the right tool for a mental health crisis. It's not the right tool for someone who's just out on the street surviving. So could we take those services, specialize it, and then go in place to leave the fire department and the police officers in the right spot? Dispatch comes in, taps us out on that unwanted call or unwanted person call, or any other types of calls that we're going through. And I believe if you have that copy, it shows the scenarios that will be sent out on. It's all going to come through dispatch.
Okay, so let me give you a scenario that we see frequently here in Lents. There is a person in the throes of mental illness or drug illness, wandering the streets, screaming, or what have you, and you call 911 for a wellness check and say, I would do that. They would send you, so you would be connected to dispatch and then you would be sent to that.
Yes.
Okay. So my secondary question is, how are the times of day decided? Because anecdotally, from my neighbors and myself, a lot of the time that we see people in severe mental health or drug crisis is at night or very early in the morning. So how is it decided that the times of day would be Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m.? It doesn't seem like that would capture the need.
I thought you would have been right until I looked at the data. And once we looked at the data and analyzed the data, what we realized is that we will be covering the bulk of the time those calls come in. Now, after we launch, we may find out maybe we really ought to work Tuesday through Saturday, right? Because maybe Saturday we'll have more traffic than we know right now. But based on the 911 call data, we believe that this is the right area, the right time of day, especially for the calls that come into Lents.
That's fascinating. My third question is, what are the exact parameters that constitute program success before a citywide rollout will happen?
Oh, you are good. What we have is very specific measurable outcomes, right? Is it on the document that we passed out? I can't remember. Put my glasses on, because, thank you. And so here are going to be the measurable outcomes. You have a document in front of you that says Portland Street Response Call It. It's a one-pager front and back that fabulous Matt McNally passed out while you weren't looking. Here's how we're going to measure success. We're going to reduce the number of non-warrant arrests that result on a 911 response, reduce the number of individuals transported to the emergency department for low acuity medical related issues that could instead be addressed in a pre-hospital care setting. And third, reduce the number of behavioral health and lower acuity medical calls traditionally responded to by fire and police. And then as far as rolling it out, the success will determine the speed, the resources available will determine how the process works, right? We want to be very intentional and not overpromise, so I figured if I underpromise you and overperform, you will like me much better. But the reality is that this is a learning as you go process, right? And what I love is that we will make mistakes, but we will be able to correct those mistakes on the ground at the same time that we discover them and then learn from what we replace it with, right? We may end up changing out the second person because we find out, no, we really do need a social worker because they've got all these connections into other kind of services, right? We may decide, no, having a mental health professional on every call is vital. because we are overwhelmed with people who are experiencing mental health crisis, right? Let me just say that anyone who is forced to live on the street in Oregon is in a mental health crisis. You cannot be on the street and not suffer from a mental health crisis. So we have to be mindful that it is not, nobody's having a good time living on the street in Portland. So that's a big, important part of this. Did you have anything else on that list? Yeah, we got through her list.
Okay, really quickly before we move on to the next question, I just want to say a couple of things. So, in order to make room for more voices and get to more questions, if you could all please limit your questions to one per person, your most burning one. And then remember, there are these pieces of paper, there's some on your table, or if they've already been used, there's some by the door that you can use to write any other follow-up questions that you might have for any of the speakers tonight. And the red box is here now. I don't know why, but it's here. And it looks like there's a bunch in here. So, and then the second thing is, if you've already spoken tonight, we might not call on you while we still try to get through the people who haven't yet spoken. So just note that that's why if you have your hand up and we haven't called on you yet, that's why. Thank you.
Okay, so my question is, you said that the response is about kind of immediate basics. In what way can you, being there on right there in an immediate way, help people to move beyond meeting those immediate basics? In other words, will you be, for example, in the future, a conduit for people to go to the Hope Center when it's up and running?
To what
The
center?
Hope Center, the former Wampano jail.
Wampano has nothing to do with my plan, so I don't know what's happening. I don't know who's got it now. Has nothing to do with my plan. I don't anticipate us being engaged with Wapato at all.
Well, it's not going to be Wampano, it's called the Hope Center.
Whatever you call it, it's still the same place, and I don't see. No, my project has nothing to do with that project.
Because it's going to be a place full of services of all kinds for people.
That's what I keep hearing. I've been hearing that for a while, and I hope that the rich private sources actually are able to pull that off. But I'm not going to devote public money and from actually taking care of people who are in need today and doing what we need to do to make sure that they are at least as comfortable as they can be.
I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that all we want to move through a system that can help them to get beyond that.
Well, that's what Portland Street Response is all about. It's about providing a compassionate, empathetic ear, identifying resources, because the people who will be working with Portland Street Response will be trained in de-escalation. They will be trained in how to engage people who may be suffering from mental health issues. They will also have access to any resources that any first responder would have. So they will have the same kind of communication device. So if there's a bed open that somebody needs, they will be able to access that. But again, it is not our goal to gather people up and take them someplace. It is our goal to try to keep people comfortable where they are and to make sure that we are minimizing the danger to the community while we are putting permanent solutions in place. So permanent solutions like housing with social services attached to the housing, like making sure that the state provides more mental health support, alcoholic drug treatment support, making sure that when we say we're building affordable housing, that we really are focused at the 30% to zero income levels, so that we really are getting the people most vulnerable into housing as quickly as possible. Other questions?
I just want to say we're getting pretty close on time and we have a lot of questions, which is amazing. I don't think we're going to get to everybody. I've been counting and we're about 5 people ahead. So
well, I'm willing to stay as long as you're willing to stay, so.
Well, mine wasn't a question. A lot of you folks have heard of assertive community treatment.
Microphone, please.
The assertive community treatment team.
No.
You've heard of that, right?
No.
Okay. So this is like, to me, that's how I see it. Like you mentioned, Joanne, de-escalations. It's not long-term for sure, but it's also not a psychiatrist sitting at the desk with the nurse practitioners scurrying around, the RNs, the peer support, the education specialist, whatever. And so you think money? That's a lot of money. And there's probably good statistics for, those kind of teams out in the field. So I did that like 10, 15 years ago, and that was a lot of work and a lot of people then. So I was born in Portland, so we have the same problems we've always had, it's just bigger.
It's just exacerbated, yes.
You haven't got called. Did you give up?
No.
First, I just want to say, this sounds awesome. This is just scratching